Ethan Carter stood in the kitchen, the rich aroma of freshly baked cookies wafting through the air. He had always loved this time of year in San Francisco, when the cool breeze hinted at the approaching winter. The city was alive with the sounds of laughter and chatter, but in his little corner of the world, Ethan felt a unique kind of excitement. Today was special. His best friend, Liam Parker, was coming over for a weekend study session. As he arranged the cookies on a plate, Ethan's mind wandered. He couldn't help but think about how much their friendship had evolved over the years. They had been inseparable since childhood, sharing secrets and dreams as they navigated the complexities of adolescence together. But lately, things had shifted for Ethan. He found himself feeling something deeper for Liam, something that went beyond friendship. It terrified him and thrilled him all at once. The doorbell rang, jolting Ethan from his thoughts. His heart raced as he wiped his hands on a towel and opened the door. There stood Liam, his bright blue eyes sparkling with mischief and joy. He wore a casual black t-shirt and jeans that hugged him just right, making Ethan's breath catch for a moment. "Hey, Ethan, smells amazing in here," Liam exclaimed, stepping inside and shaking off the chill from outside. Ethan smiled, trying to hide his nervousness. "Just some cookies I baked. Thought we could use some fuel for our study session." "Perfect. I could use a sugar rush," Liam replied with a grin, grabbing a cookie and taking a big bite. "Wow, these are incredible." They settled into the living room, surrounded by textbooks and art supplies scattered across the coffee table. As they began to study, their conversation flowed easily from one topic to another: classes, projects, and plans for the upcoming break. Laughter filled the room as they teased each other about their study habits. But beneath the surface of their playful banter lay an unspoken tension that neither of them dared to address. Ethan caught himself stealing glances at Liam more often than he intended, admiring the way his friend's hair fell just above his forehead or how his laughter lit up his face. As evening approached, dark clouds began to gather outside. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves against the windowpane. Ethan felt a twinge of anxiety as he glanced outside. He hoped the storm wouldn't ruin their evening together. "Looks like we might get some rain," Liam said casually, leaning back on the couch with an arm draped over the backrest. "Yeah," Ethan replied, trying to keep his tone light despite his racing heart. "I hope it holds off until later." Just then, a loud clap of thunder echoed through the air, causing both boys to jump slightly. The lights flickered before going out completely, plunging them into darkness. "Great timing," Liam laughed nervously as he fumbled for his phone to use as a flashlight. Ethan grabbed some candles from a nearby shelf and lit them one by one until the room was softly illuminated by their warm glow. The flickering flames created an intimate atmosphere that made Ethan's heart race even more. "Now this is cozy," Liam said with a smile, looking around at their makeshift candlelit study space. "Yeah," Ethan agreed, feeling a mix of comfort and tension in the air. "It's kind of nice being stuck inside like this." They resumed their studying but found it increasingly difficult to concentrate amidst the growing intimacy of their surroundings. As they shared stories about their childhood adventures and dreams for the future, Ethan felt an overwhelming urge to confess his feelings for Liam. But fear held him back, fear of ruining what they had built over so many years. In an attempt to lighten the mood, Ethan suggested they play a game to pass the time until the storm passed. "How about truth or dare?" he proposed with a playful grin. Liam's eyes sparkled with excitement. "I'm in. But let's make it interesting, no backing down from dares." They took turns asking each other questions and performing silly dares that made them both laugh uncontrollably. The game brought them closer together. Each truth revealed more about their hopes and fears while each dare pushed them out of their comfort zones. Then it was Liam's turn to ask a question. "Okay, Ethan, truth or dare?" "Truth," Ethan replied cautiously. Liam leaned in closer, his expression serious yet playful. "What's your biggest secret?" Ethan felt his heart race as he contemplated how much to reveal. After a moment's hesitation, he decided to take a leap of faith. "I've had feelings for someone close to me for a while now," he admitted quietly. Liam's eyes widened slightly as he processed Ethan's words. "Really? Who?" Ethan swallowed hard but didn't answer directly. Instead, he looked down at his hands resting on his lap, feeling vulnerable yet relieved to have shared that part of himself. The silence stretched between them like an invisible thread pulling tighter with each passing second until it became almost unbearable. Finally breaking it, Liam said softly, I think I know who you're talking about. Ethan looked up sharply at Liam's face. There was something in his expression that made hope bloom within him, a flicker of understanding that perhaps they were both feeling something more than friendship. Before either could say another word, another clap of thunder rumbled outside, shaking them from their momentary trance. In an impulsive act driven by emotion and uncertainty about what lay ahead, Ethan leaned forward and pressed his lips against Liam's in a tentative kiss. It was soft at first, an exploration filled with hesitation, but then it deepened as both boys melted into each other's warmth under the flickering candlelight. Time seemed to stand still as they lost themselves in that moment, a moment that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. When they finally pulled away breathless and wide-eyed with surprise at what had just happened between them, Ethan couldn't help but smile despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside him. What just happened? Liam whispered in disbelief. I think we just kissed, Ethan replied slowly, still processing everything that had transpired. Liam chuckled nervously but then grew serious again as he searched Ethan's eyes for clarity. What does this mean for us? Ethan took a deep breath. This was uncharted territory for both of them. I don't know yet, he admitted honestly. But I want to find out. As they sat together in candlelight amidst the storm raging outside, a storm that mirrored their tumultuous emotions, they knew they were on the brink of something beautiful yet uncertain. The storm raged outside, the wind howling and rain pounding against the windows like 1,000 tiny drummers. Inside, the flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows on the walls, creating an atmosphere that felt both magical and charged with anticipation. Ethan and Liam sat close together on the couch, their hearts racing from the kiss they had just shared. Ethan could hardly believe what had just happened. The warmth of Liam's lips lingered on his own, igniting a flurry of emotions he had kept buried for so long. He glanced sideways at Liam, who was staring at him with wide eyes, a mixture of surprise and excitement etched across his face. Are we really doing this? Liam finally broke the silence, his voice barely above a whisper. I think we are, Ethan replied, his heart pounding in his chest. But I'm not sure what it means yet. Liam nodded, slowly, as if processing the weight of their new reality. I've wanted to kiss you for a long time, he admitted, his cheeks flushing slightly. I just didn't know if you felt the same way. Ethan's heart soared at Liam's confession. I do, he said earnestly. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you without ruining our friendship. Liam smiled, a genuine smile that lit up his entire face. I'm glad we're on the same page. He reached out and took Ethan's hand, intertwining their fingers. The simple touch sent a jolt of electricity through Ethan's body, making him feel both exhilarated and terrified. As they sat there holding hands, the storm outside continued to rage, but inside their little bubble, everything felt right. They talked about their feelings, tentatively at first, sharing their hopes and fears about what this new chapter in their relationship might bring. The conversation flowed easily, as it always had between them, but now there was an added layer of intimacy that made everything feel more profound. After some time, Ethan suggested they move to the floor where they could sit cross-legged and be more comfortable. They shifted down from the couch, still holding hands as they settled into a cozy position surrounded by pillows and blankets. Let's play another game, Liam suggested with a playful grin. How about, 2 truths and a lie? Ethan chuckled. Okay, but let's make it interesting, no backing down from revealing which is which. They took turns sharing 2 truths and 1 lie about themselves. Laughter filled the room as they tried to guess each other's lies. It felt refreshing to engage in lighthearted fun after the intensity of their earlier conversation. As the game progressed, Ethan realized how much he cherished these moments with Liam, their laughter, their shared secrets, and now this new layer of connection that made everything feel richer. When it was Ethan's turn again, he decided to take a risk. All right, he began with a mischievous glint in his eye. Here goes. I once snuck into an art gallery after hours. I've never been in love, and I can play the guitar. Liam raised an eyebrow playfully. I think you're lying about sneaking into an art gallery. Ethan laughed, shaking his head. Wrong. That one's true. Seriously. How did you pull that off? Liam asked, intrigued. Ethan grinned as he recounted the story of how he and Liam had once snuck into an abandoned building for an adventure when they were younger. It was exhilarating to share those memories with Liam again. The thrill of breaking rules together had always bonded them. As they continued playing and sharing stories late into the night, Ethan felt a sense of comfort wash over him. The worries about what others might think faded away as he focused solely on Liam, the way his eyes sparkled when he laughed or how his smile could light up even the darkest moments. Eventually, they grew tired from laughter and conversation. The storm outside had calmed to a gentle drizzle, and the candlelight flickered softly around them. "Hey," Liam said suddenly, breaking the comfortable silence that had settled between them. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course," Ethan replied, curious about what was on Liam's mind. "What happens now? Are we officially together?" Liam asked hesitantly. Ethan felt a rush of warmth at the question. It felt surreal to even consider it but also incredibly exciting. "I want us to be," he said sincerely. "But I think we should take our time and see where this goes." Liam smiled brightly at Ethan's response. "I agree. No pressure, just us figuring things out together." As they sat there under the soft glow of candlelight, hands still intertwined, Ethan couldn't help but feel hopeful about what lay ahead for them. They were entering uncharted territory together, a journey filled with possibilities. With that thought in mind, they leaned back against the couch cushions side by side, allowing themselves to drift into a comfortable silence as sleep began to creep in. The last thing Ethan remembered before succumbing to slumber was feeling safe and content beside Liam, the boy who had always been his best friend but was now something so much more. The morning sun filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow across the room. Ethan stirred awake, the remnants of last night's conversations and laughter still echoing in his mind. He turned to see Liam sleeping beside him, his chest rising and falling gently, a peaceful expression on his face. For a moment, Ethan just watched him, feeling a rush of affection that made his heart swell. He carefully disentangled himself from their cozy nest of blankets and pillows and tiptoed to the kitchen. The house was quiet except for the soft sound of rain pattering against the window. As he brewed coffee, he couldn't help but replay the events of the previous night, the kiss, their confessions, and how everything had shifted between them. It felt surreal yet exhilarating. After pouring himself a cup of coffee, he decided to let Liam sleep a bit longer. He returned to the living room and settled onto the couch with a sketchbook. Drawing had always been Ethan's way of processing his emotions, and today was no different. He began to sketch Liam as he slept, capturing the gentle curve of his lips and the way his hair fell across his forehead. Lost in his art, Ethan didn't notice when Liam finally woke up. "What are you drawing?" Liam asked sleepily, rubbing his eyes as he sat up. Ethan looked up, slightly embarrassed but also excited to share. "Just you," he admitted with a shy smile. Liam leaned closer, peering at the sketch. "Wow, that's really good. I didn't know you could capture my essence so perfectly," he teased. Ethan laughed, feeling warmth spread through him at Liam's compliment. "Thanks. It's easier when I'm drawing someone I care about." The moment hung in the air between them, charged with unspoken feelings. Liam's expression softened as he met Ethan's gaze. "I care about you too," he said quietly. They shared a smile that felt like a promise, a silent acknowledgement of their new relationship. After a brief moment of hesitation, Liam suggested they make breakfast together. Ethan eagerly agreed. Cooking was another way they had bonded over the years. In the kitchen, they worked side by side, laughing and joking as they prepared pancakes and scrambled eggs. The atmosphere was light and playful, filled with easy camaraderie that felt familiar yet thrillingly different now that they were more than friends. "Do you remember that time we tried to make pancakes but ended up with a giant burnt mess?" Liam asked as he flipped a pancake with exaggerated flair. Ethan chuckled at the memory. "How could I forget? We were so determined to impress your parents." "Yeah, and all we impressed them with was our ability to set off smoke alarms," Liam replied with a grin. As they reminisced about their childhood mishaps in the kitchen, Ethan felt grateful for these moments, simple yet profound. It was in these shared experiences that their bond deepened further. After breakfast, they decided to clean up together. As they washed dishes side by side, their hands brushed against each other more than once, sending sparks of electricity through Ethan each time. He could feel the tension building again, the delicious kind that made his heart race and palms sweat. Once they finished cleaning up, Ethan suggested they go for a walk since the rain had finally stopped. "Let's take advantage of this beautiful weather," he said, excitement bubbling within him. Liam agreed enthusiastically, grabbing his jacket as they headed out the door together. The fresh scent of rain lingered in the air as they stepped outside into the vibrant world washed clean by the storm. They walked through their neighborhood, enjoying each other's company while taking in the sights around them, the glistening leaves on trees and the colorful flowers blooming in gardens. Along their path, the sun peeked through fluffy clouds overhead, creating a picturesque backdrop for their stroll. As they wandered aimlessly, Ethan felt an urge to share something deeper with Liam, something that had been weighing on his mind since last night's revelations. "Can I ask you something?" he said hesitantly. "Of course," Liam replied, glancing at him curiously. "What do you think this means for us? I mean, being together now?" Ethan asked nervously. Liam paused for a moment before responding thoughtfully. "Honestly, I'm excited but also scared," he admitted. "I've never been in a relationship like this before." Ethan nodded in understanding, he felt exactly the same way. "Me too," he confessed. "I want this to work because you mean so much to me." Liam smiled warmly at Ethan's words. "You mean a lot to me too," he said softly. "I think we just need to take it one step at a time." Feeling encouraged by Liam's response, Ethan took a deep breath and decided to share something else that had been on his mind. "I've always admired how brave you are, how you embrace life without fear." Liam looked surprised but pleased by Ethan's compliment. "Thanks. That means a lot coming from you." They continued walking in comfortable silence for a while until they reached a small park nearby where children played and families enjoyed picnics on blankets spread across the grass. "Let's sit for a bit," Liam suggested as they found an empty bench under a large oak tree. As they sat side by side, Ethan couldn't help but steal glances at Liam. His profile framed by sunlight filtering through leaves above them made him look almost ethereal. The moment felt perfect. Everything around them faded away until it was just the two of them lost in each other's presence. "Do you think we'll be okay?" Ethan asked quietly after some time passed. Liam turned to face him fully now, sincerity shining in his eyes. "I believe we will be," he said confidently. "We just have to communicate openly and be honest with each other." Ethan felt reassured by Liam's words. It was exactly what he needed to hear. They spent more time talking about their hopes for their relationship, the little things that mattered most to them, and how they could support each other moving forward. As dusk began to settle over the park and colors shifted from bright blues to soft oranges and purples in the sky above them, Ethan realized how much this day meant to him already, a day filled with laughter, connection, and newfound love. When it was finally time to head back home, they walked hand in hand, fingers intertwined, each step feeling like an affirmation of their commitment to one another. The world around them buzzed with life as they made their way back home. It was as if everything had transformed into something more vibrant now that they were together in this new way. As they reached Ethan's house again, both boys paused at the front door for just a moment longer than necessary, an unspoken understanding passing between them before stepping inside together once more. With hearts full of hope and excitement for what lay ahead, a journey filled with love, they knew this was only just the beginning of something beautiful. The next morning dawned bright and clear, the sun streaming through the windows and illuminating the room with a golden glow. Ethan stretched lazily in bed, a smile creeping onto his face as he recalled the previous day, the laughter, the deep conversations, and the warmth of holding Liam's hand. Everything felt different now, charged with a new energy that made his heart flutter. After showering and getting dressed, Ethan made his way to the kitchen. He decided to whip up some breakfast for himself and Liam, wanting to surprise him. As he gathered ingredients for an omelet, he couldn't shake the feeling of excitement mixed with nervousness. Their relationship was still so new, and he wanted to make sure they navigated this transition smoothly. Just as he was cracking eggs into a bowl, he heard footsteps behind him. "Good morning, Chef." Liam's voice was cheerful, and Ethan turned to see him leaning against the doorframe, his hair tousled and eyes still sleepy but sparkling with warmth. "Morning. I hope you're hungry," Ethan replied, grinning as he poured the egg mixture into a hot skillet. "I'm making omelets." "Sounds amazing. Can I help?" Liam asked, stepping closer. "Sure. You can chop some veggies," Ethan said, handing him a cutting board and a knife. As they worked side by side in the kitchen, their movements were synchronized, each of them naturally falling into a rhythm that felt comfortable and right. "So," Liam began casually as he diced bell peppers. "What are we doing today?" Ethan paused for a moment, considering how to approach the topic that had been on his mind since their walk in the park. I thought we could talk about us, he said carefully. Liam looked up from his task, his expression shifting to one of curiosity mixed with seriousness. Okay. What do you want to talk about? Ethan took a deep breath. I just want to make sure we're on the same page about everything. I really like you, Liam. Like, a lot. I really like you too, Liam replied earnestly, setting down the knife and stepping closer to Ethan. This feels so new for me, like nothing I've ever experienced before. Ethan nodded in agreement. Same here. I want us to be open about our feelings and what we want moving forward. Liam smiled softly at Ethan's words. I think that's a great idea. I don't want to hide anything from you. He reached out and squeezed Ethan's hand gently. Just then, the omelets were ready, and they moved to the dining table where they enjoyed breakfast together, their conversation flowing easily between bites of food. After they finished eating and cleaned up together again, Ethan felt a sense of contentment wash over him. They had navigated their feelings openly without any awkwardness, it felt natural. Want to go for another walk? Liam suggested after they finished cleaning up. Absolutely, Ethan replied enthusiastically. They stepped outside into the warm afternoon sun, deciding to explore a nearby park that had always been one of their favorite spots as kids. The air was fresh and filled with laughter from families enjoying their day out. As they walked along the path lined with flowers in full bloom, Ethan felt an overwhelming sense of happiness wash over him. It was as if everything around them had transformed, colors seemed brighter, sounds clearer, as if the world was celebrating their newfound connection. Do you remember that time we tried to build a fort in this park? Liam asked suddenly, breaking into laughter. Ethan chuckled at the memory. How could I forget? We ended up using all those old blankets from your garage. And your mom came looking for us because we were gone too long, Liam added with a grin. She thought we'd gotten lost. They continued reminiscing about their childhood adventures until they found a quiet spot under a large oak tree where they decided to sit down on the grass. I love this place, Ethan said softly as he leaned back against the trunk of the tree. It holds so many memories. Me too, Liam replied thoughtfully as he stretched out beside Ethan. For a moment, they lay side by side in comfortable silence, watching clouds drift lazily across the sky above them. Then Liam turned on his side to face Ethan, propping himself up on one elbow. Can I ask you something? Of course, Ethan replied, curious. About what was on Liam's mind. What do you think love feels like? Liam asked genuinely. Ethan considered this for a moment before answering. I think love is about connection, understanding each other deeply and wanting what's best for one another. He paused before adding, it's also about vulnerability, being able to show your true self without fear. Liam nodded slowly as he absorbed Ethan's words. That makes sense, he said quietly. I feel like we've been building something special together. Ethan smiled at him warmly. There was something magical about this moment, the way they could share their thoughts so openly without fear of judgment or misunderstanding. I want us to keep building that, Ethan said earnestly. Whatever it turns into. Liam's eyes sparkled with emotion as he reached out to take Ethan's hand again. Me too, he said softly. As they sat there under the oak tree holding hands, fingers intertwined, they both felt an unspoken promise pass between them. No matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The afternoon wore on peacefully until hunger began to gnaw at them once more. They decided it was time to head back home, but not before stopping by their favorite ice cream shop along the way, a tradition they had shared since childhood. Once there, they ordered their usual flavors. Ethan chose mint chocolate chip while Liam opted for cookies and cream, and found a spot outside where they could enjoy their treats under the sun. As they sat together laughing and teasing each other over silly things, like who could finish their ice cream first, Ethan felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude fill his heart. This was what happiness felt like, simple moments spent with someone who understood him completely. After finishing their ice cream and sharing playful banter about who had won, which was obviously Ethan, they made their way back home hand in hand once more, each step feeling lighter than before. When they arrived back at Ethan's house later that evening, both boys were filled with anticipation about what lay ahead for them, a future filled with love and adventure waiting just beyond their doorstep. As night fell around them and stars began to twinkle overhead like diamonds scattered across velvet fabric, both boys knew one thing for certain: whatever happened next would be worth it because they would face it together. The days that followed were a whirlwind of excitement and nervous energy for Ethan and Liam. They had settled into a comfortable rhythm, filled with laughter, shared secrets, and stolen kisses. But as their relationship deepened, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the verge of something significant, something that could change everything. One Friday evening, after a long week of classes, Ethan invited Liam over for a movie night. He had stocked up on snacks, popcorn, candy, and soda, hoping to create the perfect atmosphere for a cozy night in. As he set up the living room with blankets and pillows, he felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. He wanted everything to be perfect. When Liam arrived, he was greeted by the sight of Ethan's living room transformed into a mini theater. "Wow, you really went all out," Liam said with a grin, his eyes sparkling with delight. Ethan shrugged, trying to play it cool. "Just wanted to make it special," he replied, his heart racing at the thought of spending the evening with Liam. They settled onto the couch, surrounded by snacks and blankets. As the opening credits rolled on their chosen movie, a romantic comedy, Ethan felt a flutter in his stomach. The film was lighthearted and fun, but his mind was elsewhere. He couldn't help but steal glances at Liam, who was completely engrossed in the film, laughter spilling from his lips at all the right moments. Halfway through the movie, Ethan decided it was time to break the tension that had been building between them. "So," he began casually, "what do you think about us?" Liam paused the movie and turned to face him, his expression serious yet curious. "What do you mean? I mean, where do you see this going?" Ethan asked, feeling vulnerable as he spoke. "I really like you, and I want to know if you feel the same way." Liam took a deep breath, his gaze steady on Ethan. "I do feel the same way," he said earnestly. "But I'm also scared about what that means." Ethan's heart raced at Liam's admission, it was both reassuring and nerve-wracking. "What are you scared of?" he asked gently. "I guess I'm worried about how people will react," Liam admitted. "I've never been in a relationship like this before. What if we end up hurting each other?" Ethan nodded in understanding, he had thought about those same fears. "I get it," he replied softly. "But I believe we can handle whatever comes our way together." Liam smiled at Ethan's words, and for a moment, everything felt right again. They shared a lingering gaze before Liam leaned closer, their foreheads almost touching. "You make me feel safe," he whispered. Ethan's heart swelled at that simple statement. He reached out to tuck a loose strand of hair behind Liam's ear before leaning in for a kiss, soft and tentative at first but quickly deepening as they lost themselves in each other. Just as they were getting lost in their moment, the sudden ringing of Ethan's phone broke through the intimacy like an unwelcome guest. Both boys pulled away reluctantly as Ethan fished his phone out of his pocket. "Sorry," he said sheepishly as he glanced at the screen. It was his mom calling. "Take it," Liam encouraged with a playful smile. "I'll grab us some more snacks." Ethan nodded appreciatively as he answered the call. "Hey, Mom." "Hi sweetie. Just checking in to see how your movie night is going," she said cheerfully. "It's great. Just watching a comedy with Liam," Ethan replied casually while stealing glances at Liam rummaging through the kitchen for more treats. "Good. I'm glad you're spending time together," she said warmly. "Make sure to save some popcorn for me when I get home." "Will do." Ethan laughed before hanging up. When he returned to the living room, he found Liam sprawled out on the couch with an array of snacks laid out before him like a feast fit for kings. "Look at this spread," Ethan exclaimed as he plopped down beside him. "I thought we needed more fuel for our movie marathon," Liam said with a wink. As they resumed watching the film, Ethan felt an overwhelming sense of happiness wash over him. They laughed together at all the right moments and exchanged playful banter throughout the movie. But as it neared its conclusion, a scene where the characters professed their love for one another, Ethan felt that familiar flutter return. "Do you think we'll ever get there?" Ethan asked quietly as they watched the characters embrace on screen. "What do you mean?" Liam replied, glancing over at him. "I mean, professing our love for each other like that," Ethan clarified, his heart pounding in his chest. Liam looked thoughtful for a moment before answering. "I hope so," he said softly. "But I think we should take our time and let things develop naturally." Ethan nodded in agreement, rushing things had never been their style anyway. They both valued their connection too much to jeopardize it by moving too fast. As the credits rolled and soft music filled the room, they turned to face each other once more, eyes locking in an unspoken understanding that they were both ready to embrace whatever came next together. Suddenly feeling bold again, Ethan leaned in closer and whispered playfully, "So, what's next? More movies or maybe some ice cream?" Liam laughed softly but then grew serious again as he looked into Ethan's eyes. "How about we go outside? I'd love to take some pictures of you under the stars." Ethan's heart raced at the idea. He had always loved how passionate Liam was about photography and how effortlessly he captured beauty in everything around him. "Sure, let me grab my jacket," Ethan replied excitedly. They stepped outside into the cool night air, where stars twinkled brightly overhead like diamonds scattered across velvet fabric. The world felt magical under the night sky, a perfect backdrop for what lay ahead. Liam pulled out his camera and began snapping photos of Ethan against various backdrops, the house illuminated by moonlight or standing beneath an old oak tree swaying gently in the breeze. "Hold still," Liam called playfully as he adjusted his settings before capturing another shot. Ethan couldn't help but laugh. Being behind the lens brought out an entirely different side of Liam, a focused intensity that made him even more attractive in Ethan's eyes. After several minutes of posing and laughing together under starlight, Liam finally lowered his camera with satisfaction written all over his face. "You're a natural." Ethan grinned widely at that compliment. It felt good knowing that Liam appreciated him not just as a friend but as someone special in his life now too. As they stood together beneath shimmering stars, hearts racing from laughter and connection, Ethan felt an overwhelming sense of hope fill him once more, hope for their future together filled with love and adventure waiting just beyond their doorstep. The following week unfolded like a beautiful dream for Ethan and Liam. Their bond deepened with every shared moment, every laugh, and every stolen kiss. They had fallen into a rhythm that felt both comfortable and exhilarating. However, as their relationship blossomed, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that they were approaching a pivotal moment, one that could either solidify their connection or challenge it in ways they hadn't anticipated. It was a Friday evening when everything changed. Ethan had planned a casual night in, but when he arrived home from class, he found his mom waiting for him in the living room. She looked up from her phone with an expression that made Ethan's stomach drop. "Ethan, we need to talk," she said, her tone serious. "Okay," Ethan replied cautiously, sensing the weight of the conversation about to unfold. "I received a call from one of your teachers today," she began, her brow furrowing slightly. "They mentioned some concerns about your grades and your focus in class. They said you seem distracted lately." Ethan felt heat rise to his cheeks. "I've just been busy with projects and hanging out with friends," he said defensively. "Is that all it is?" she pressed gently. "Because I can't help but wonder if it has something to do with, well, your relationship with Liam." Ethan's heart raced at the mention of Liam's name. "Mom, it's not like that," he insisted. "Liam is my best friend, and we're just figuring things out." "I understand that," she replied softly. "But I want you to be careful. Relationships can be complicated, especially at your age." Ethan felt a pang of frustration mixed with fear. He didn't want to hear this right now. He wanted to enjoy his time with Liam without any outside pressures or judgments. "I appreciate your concern, but I'm happy," he said firmly. His mom sighed, looking at him with a mixture of love and worry. "I just want what's best for you. Promise me you'll keep your priorities straight." "I promise," Ethan replied, though he felt a knot forming in his stomach. After their conversation ended, Ethan felt unsettled. He knew his mom meant well, but her words lingered in his mind like an unwelcome shadow. He couldn't help but wonder if he was indeed becoming too distracted by his feelings for Liam. When Liam arrived later that evening, Ethan forced himself to put on a smile despite the turmoil brewing inside him. They settled on the couch with popcorn and their favorite movie queued up on the screen. "Hey, you okay?" Liam asked as he noticed Ethan's distracted demeanor. "Yeah, just tired," Ethan lied, not wanting to burden Liam with his worries. As the movie played on, Ethan found it increasingly difficult to concentrate on anything other than the thoughts swirling in his mind. He could feel Liam glancing at him occasionally, concern etched on his face. Finally, halfway through the film, Liam paused it and turned to face Ethan directly. "You're definitely not okay. What's going on?" Ethan hesitated before finally admitting what had been bothering him all evening. "My mom talked to me today about school, Ines," he said quietly. Liam's expression shifted from concern to understanding as he listened intently. What did she say? She's worried I'm getting too distracted by our relationship, Ethan admitted, feeling vulnerable as he spoke the words aloud. Liam frowned slightly but nodded thoughtfully. I get it, parents worry about these things. He paused before adding carefully, but we can't let anyone else dictate how we feel about each other. I know, Ethan replied, feeling a mixture of relief and anxiety wash over him at Liam's words. But what if she's right? What if I am losing focus? Liam reached out and took Ethan's hand gently. You're not losing focus, you're just learning to balance things differently now that we're together. He squeezed Ethan's hand reassuringly. We can figure this out together. Ethan looked into Liam's eyes, feeling comforted by his presence. You're right, he said slowly. I want this to work. They resumed watching the movie, but Ethan found it hard to shake off the weight of their earlier conversation completely. As they sat close together on the couch, hands intertwined, he couldn't help but feel grateful for Liam's unwavering support. When the credits rolled and silence enveloped them once more, Ethan turned to face Liam again. Can we talk more about us? About how we can make this work? Absolutely, Liam replied earnestly. They spent the next hour discussing their feelings openly, sharing their hopes for their relationship while also acknowledging the challenges they might face along the way. It felt liberating to voice their concerns together. They were both committed to making things work despite any obstacles that might arise. As they talked late into the night, laughter mingled with serious conversations until finally exhaustion began to creep in on both of them. Maybe we should call it a night, Liam suggested after stifling a yawn. Yeah, Ethan agreed reluctantly but felt a sense of peace settle over him knowing they had addressed everything openly. As they stood at the door saying their goodbyes, Ethan felt a surge of affection for Liam, a warmth that filled him completely as they shared one last lingering kiss before parting ways for the night. In bed later that evening, as Ethan lay staring up at the ceiling lost in thought once more, he realized something important. Relationships required effort and communication. They were not always easy but were worth fighting for when you found someone who made you feel alive like never before. With newfound determination filling him up inside, he resolved to focus on both his studies and his relationship with Liam equally, because they were both important parts of who he was becoming. As sleep finally took him under its gentle embrace, the worries of earlier faded away into dreams filled with laughter and love. The future felt bright ahead, a canvas waiting for them both to paint together.